Howdy boo.
This
Howdy
is Two
do.
Girls, One Ghost.
2 girls, 1 ghost. And we are your ghostesses. That is Corinne.
Hi.
And I am Sabrina. And this is the 150th Encounters episode.
Yeah, can you believe?
150.
That is
150.
wild. 150 episodes.
Of you guys being haunted. Of your stories.
That's incredible. Like, I can't even believe it. Like, to think of how many stories we have read.
Yes.
How many words have been said.
Can we see how many are in our
I don't know.
Read on podcast?
Well, that will include some of the ones that we read at the end of the episode, but me as well, because, like, let's do it.
I don't know. I can't. I don't think it shows the whole thing.
I think I'll be able to see if I do it on the computer.
Okay, let me know.
Let me tell you.
Let us know.
Give me 1 second. Okay, we have read, as of today, not including what we're about to read. We've read and it's going to be over this because we've read some other episodes that are coming out before this. But roughly 1,416 ghost stories.
That feels like not that many. And yet it's so many.
I feel like it feels like a
lot. Wow. This is okay. That's wild.
We had to read out loud, which was the biggest fear I ever had. And I still get anxiety about it 1,400 times.
Well, you've done it, Corinne. You've successfully done it 150 times however many episodes or stories you read per episode. And the great news is that we have like 7,000 unread emails. So there's no end in sight.
We're going to be doing this when we're 94 years old. Like, it's
oh my
still
God, please.
happening.
Can we pinky promise that to each other?
Yes.
Ding, dinky.
Ding, ding. Now that we have video, I mean, we always had video, but now that video records, you and I always do stuff through the screen. Like, we handshake, we pinky promise, we do the triangle. Like, there's everything happening.
Yeah. We can do whatever we want now. It's fun.
Yeah, we can.
Speaking of whatever we want, 150, Corinne and I decided to, I don't know, do the update episode.
Yeah. So, where are they now? What happened
what's
after
happening?
that?
What happened after the story that they told us? What hauntings have happened since then? What things did they leave us hanging and left
filling the
cliffhangers?
gaps.
Yeah, we need to know. We need answers. So
the beauty is that so many times when we read these stories, we email and we say, hey, we read your story on this episode. And oftentimes we ask questions in that email. And also people listen to their own stories being read and then oftentimes follow up with the answers or the guess what happened since I last emailed you. And now we get to fill everybody in.
Tell you. Should I start?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to start with probably the more recent of the stories that we're reading today, whenever you're listening. On Encounters 137, we read a story from our listener Elise about Elise's daughter Nora, who had an entire past life.
Yes, I remember
and,
this.
Could recall every detail.
It's truly like the best example. It's the best case of reincarnation
ever. It's incredible.
We should do a whole podcast just on this child.
On Nora. Yes. Well, what's amazing is that at the end of that last email which we read in Encounters 137, Elise had mentioned that they were going to go to Maine and go on a trip and go to the place that Nora was from in a past life. And it has happened.
Okay. I cannot believe we get to be here and hear this. This is so exciting.
Yes. And I think there's a bonus ghost story in it as well. Okay.
Perfect.
Hi, Sabrina and Corinne. I'm sorry it's taken me a while to respond to you about our trip to Maine. I do have some stories for you. It's not as exciting as I had hoped, but I will share nonetheless. First of all, I realized in my last email, I forgot to mention that this family trip to Maine was planned 6 months before I heard any of Nora's past life story, and she had no idea we were planning this trip. Crazy coincidence or the universe working its magic? So once she mentioned she was from Eastport, Maine, I was determined to make that part of our trip. When we told Nora that we were going to Maine, she got a little weird. She asked if we were going to stay there forever or just visit. When I said it was just a short vacation, she started to feel better. And once we landed, she was very quiet and just was taking it all in. And on our drive to our VRBO, she said, meow.
I can see Leia's shadow coming in. She's like the monster on the side of the wall, the shadow person coming through.
Come on through. The people want to see you.
Oh, big baby. Big baby.
She really is so big when you look at her from this perspective.
She is. Also, you're little, so it makes her look even
but
more huge.
I'm not that little. You gonna behave? Want to be here for the story? Okay. Nope. Just a little temper tantrum. Okay. So on the drive to the VRBO, Nora said, I remember these big trees indeed. I love these trees.
The fact, indeed.
I know.
That does not sound like a little kid.
Elise even says, yes, she says indeed a lot. I remember these big trees indeed. I love these trees. Oh, gosh. We were staying in Portland for a week, and Eastport was about 4.5 hours away. But I didn't mind driving at all, so I wanted to go explore Eastport with Abby. Well, the day we decided to go, I was giddy as ever, but my mom stopped and asked me, do you think Nora even wants to go to Eastport? I selfishly didn't even think of that, so I went to go ask her. After I asked her, her eyes welled up and she said, I don't want to go back there again. Please, let's not go.
Keyword,
I wasn't even
there.
thinking. I know. I wasn't even thinking what this would do to her. I was just thinking about expanding on this story. So in the end, we didn't want to make her uncomfortable and we respected her wishes. We ended up taking her to a beach instead. Aww. And while there, she told me she remembered this beach and pointed to the pier and said, but this wasn't there. I thought that was strange because it was a historic pier. However, I Googled it and the pier was built in 1898, which was after Abby died.
Wow.
On the way back to the house, she told me stories about how her mom used to take her on a little blue wooden canoe to a lake nearby, and she said she loved it because it was just her and her mom because her siblings didn't like the canoe as much.
This is just such a clear memory.
So clear.
It's not just a few details. It's so many. It's like a lifetime of experiences remembered.
And it's like all these specifics and like knowing that the pier wasn't there. And it then, Elise doing the research and verifying that
everything
information.
lines up.
Yeah. The next day, we took a day trip to Salem, which was amazing. We toured the Ropes Mansion, which is Allison's house in Hocus Pocus, which has been turned into a museum, perfectly preserving the Ropes family home in the 19th century. My other two kids were zooming around like typical bored little kids in a museum, while Nora slowly walked through each room with me in awe of all the artifacts. She was so excited when she saw the 4-poster bed and said that her mom and her dad each had one of these beds in their rooms, except the curtains weren't blue like this. They were red with flowers. One of the tour guides behind us gave us quite a look. Unfortunately, that's all I have from our Maine trip. She has been talking about it less and less. She recently turned 5 and I think is sadly forgetting. But I am happy I have everything written down so we can talk about it again when she's older. P.S. Here is another Nora story I wanted to share with you. It's not related to her past life, but more paranormal. One day, I was having a shitty mom day. The kids were being awful all day, and there was not enough wine in the house to keep me at peace. That evening, all 3 kids were fighting in Harriet's bedroom. I was in Nora's bedroom putting away endless amounts of laundry when I just couldn't take it anymore. I dropped my laundry basket, landed on my knees, and started crying. I looked up and said, "Damn it, Grammy and Nanny, how the hell did you do this with all your kids and still rock a smile? I just can't mom anymore and stay a sane person. I'm a horrible mom." Oh, I have tears. This is sad. Heroes, unsung heroes that moms are. Grammy and Nanny are my recently passed grandmothers. They had 3 and 5 children respectively. I suddenly heard the screaming kids come rushing into the room I was in, so I quickly stood up, brushed away my tears, and got my game face back on. No one saw or heard my little meltdown. I went back into mean mom mode and angrily made all the kids clean up their bedrooms until they were spotless. I remember thinking it was the first time I saw their floors in years. Everything was put away. Everything. And then everyone went to bed. The next morning, I went to wake up Nora and get her dressed for the day, still a little groggy from the horrible night before. After she got up, she immediately went to the floor right where I had my meltdown previously, and there on the floor were 2 little toy gems sparkling in the sunlight. She nonchalantly picked them up and gave them to me and said, "These are from Grammy and Nanny. They wanted to make you happy."
Oh, my body.
I know.
It doesn't feel right to say I have chills in this moment, but like, holy crap.
Oh my gosh.
Well,
yeah.
Sabrina.
It's just so sweet. I had no words, but my oldest, who just came into the room, said, "But those aren't from Grammy and Nanny. They're our toys from Target." And Nora responded, "Yes, I know that, but they are from Grammy and Nanny for Mom. They told me." I told my mom the story, and she thinks it was my grandma's. Oh my gosh.
No. Ghost stories. Sometimes
they really get you.
Mm-hmm.
I told my mom the story, and she thinks it was my grandma's wanting me to know I was still a gem of a mom, even with my meltdown.
Are you okay?
Yeah, it's just really sweet. It just makes me want to like tell my mom like thank you, and like, you know. No. A week or so later, my sister Heidi called me to complain about how she wasted money on a psychic reading. She told me how she asked the psychic if our grandparents had any signs or symbols for us so we could know they were around us. Heidi said none of it made any sense. The psychic said that my grandpa was a cardinal, so typical. Our step-grandpa was just a sense of knowing he was around us, and my grandma's symbols were like diamonds or something sparkly. Heidi was like, that doesn't even make sense. But then I went on to tell her my gem story with Nora, and Heidi said, "Oh crap, maybe I shouldn't have hung up on the psychic then. My bad."
No, call her back.
I know.
Oh my God. I mean, holy shit. I can understand in the moment feeling like taken advantage of if nothing's making sense and you're like, this person's just taking my money and like saying things about my loved ones to like try to get me riled. Like I understand feeling like insulted by it, but damn.
Yeah.
You found a real one.
A real one. And that's I think the beautiful thing about psychics is like sometimes you don't know, like the information they give you doesn't make sense, but then talking to someone else in your family puts it all together. Elise signs it off saying, "That's my happy little feel-good story. Hope you liked it. See you on the other side, Elise."
Wow.
Well, okay. Elise, feel good and feel crying.
Yeah. Respect to Elise as a mother for not pushing Nora to go. And I feel like it's so easy to be excited by something like this, and as a parent or authority figure be able to kind of like push the story along because you have the power to do that. Right. But I'm glad.
And you want to know. Like, it is intriguing. We all want to know. But like,
You have to do what's
She
right
makes a good point. Yeah.
Nora doesn't want to go back. Nora's past self enjoys remembering in the moment where she is, but doesn't want to be back in that. I can imagine how painful it would be.
And I do remember, like, didn't like a chandelier fall and crush Abby? Like, the death was pretty traumatic. So I do think it's very possible that the part of Nora that is Abby, remembering that and going back to that place would, you know, bring up that sadness of the fact that, like, they can't see their family again from their past life.
And fear, too, because it makes me wonder if part of this past life coming forward so aggressively through Nora is because there's some trauma, like, from that experience that part of her soul hasn't accepted or moved past.
Yeah,
and
that's
that
a
would
good point too.
A real big open wound and really scary, especially for a little girl too. And like, as a parent or as a chaperone, what are you supposed to do in that situation? It's like, there's no immediate threat that you can see or control. It's all within. And so it's really hard to step in and help in that situation. So I'm glad they didn't fully go, but still got an experience at the beach with the pier.
Yeah. And heard about the, like, canoeing on the lake, which makes me wonder if Elise and Nora go canoeing, if Nora in her life still enjoys the things that she had done in a previous life.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And then the gem story. I mean, that got you, Sabrina.
Oh my gosh. It destroyed me in the best way. Cause it's like, I'm not a mother, but like, I just think parents, it's just such a thankless job. It is so much, it is the most selfless job. And I just think, I understood that moment. Like, I had such empathy for Elise in that moment, and like to just, for like for Nora to have this experience with her grandparents, and like the gems being the exact spot where Elise had been kneeling. And, you know, like, she was calling for help. Like, she needed help and guidance, and as we all do. And for her to like receive it, I just thought that's magic.
Yeah. A really strong ancestral line too, right?
Oh my gosh.
Have everybody to call out for it and immediately be like, we're here. We're here with you. And also the follow through on Nora's part, because I think there's a lot of risk as a spirit coming forth and trying to use a child as your conduit, as your form of communication to like pass along a message. They might not say anything. They might not remember. They might move on.
Nora is like, oh gosh, what a little special little child Nora is.
I agree. We're big fans of Nora here.
I think the biggest fans.
Thank you, Elise, for introducing us to Nora's story.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have a follow-up from our listener, CeCe. We've heard from CeCe a few times. And in one email titled, "Do I really exit my body every single fucking night?" that we read in Encounters 109, to give everyone a bit of a recap, CeCe had told us about losing her dad when she was a child. And then a few years after his passing, she, her mom, and her sister moved to Hackettstown, New Jersey. And in this apartment, there was a media stand from her dad's house and framed pictures on it, one being an angel. And it kept moving around until her mom basically asked her dad's spirit to stop moving it around. And then it stopped.
Okay.
And then CeCe had many dreams of having phone calls with her father. And when she moved to Colorado with her fiance when she was an adult, she set up a shrine for her dad with crystals and spiritual items like intention jars. And one of the intention jars had a charm of an eye of Buddha on it, on the lid. And when she walked away from it, the Buddha charm flipped upside down, and she believed that was her father. So this is a recap to, that was the recap, but this is a follow-up to all of those experiences.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I love this. And this is also a call to everyone who's sent us stories and we've responded. We genuinely want to know the answers to our questions. Like, please respond.
And whether or not we write those questions in the email or just say them in the podcast when we're listening to your, and if anything else happens after that, also follow up in like a chain of email, like respond to your original email so that we have it all together. That will help us greatly.
Yes.
But yeah, we want to know.
We do.
Okay, so here's the update from CeCe. The Buddha charm flipping on my intention jar was the first of a handful of things that happened when I moved into that apartment. The others, I know in my heart, was not my dad. I've questioned why I am suddenly experiencing things and chalked it up to becoming more strong in my craft. So after my dad gave me his blessing for the new apartment, through the Buddha charm flipping in the previous email, my man brought home some walkie-talkies. We have a close friend that lives in the same complex that we do, just a few buildings away, and we gave our buddy the other walkie-talkies because we are all still children and we like to have fun because life sucks sometimes.
It's so fun. I love walkie-talkies.
I know. We should do that, Sabrina, except we're not nearly in the same frequency, but that would be so fun.
We do have Marco Polo, which I love.
We do. And we could use walkie-talkies on our Apple Watches.
That's true.
It's just you get no control over what's said and where you are when it's said.
Where and when. Yeah.
So probably not. Okay. Anyway, I was home alone one day, which was the case a lot during 2020. I've worked in restaurants for 10 years and everyone knows what a hit the service industry took during this whole thing. So I'm home alone fighting depression at this point, like so many others did this past year. And that time of the month is creeping up fast. I've had issues with my reproductive system for as long as I can remember, different problems here and there throughout my life. And during this time, I was experiencing very sharp pains starting at my pelvic region and going up near my belly button. Not fun.
Oh, geez.
I awoke in a great deal of pain and was trying to will myself out of bed when I hear the static of the walkie-talkie in my kitchen. We had been using them, so I just assumed it was our friend. But it was strange because he works a normal work schedule and it was like 8 a.m. on a Monday or Tuesday. So I ignore the staticky calls, you know, the like shh, shh, but it kept happening. So annoyed, I got out of bed and I picked up the walkie and said, "Please stop," in a very stern voice. On the other end responded a little girl. My friend does not have children.
Oh my gosh.
He didn't even have his cat at this point. I was so freaked out because the voice sounded exactly like my niece, but when she was young. I mean, it was her. She's 15 now, but it sounded like she did when she was 7 in the walkie-talkie, the same age she was.
So creepy.
Yes, I know. It makes me think of like all the wrinkles in time and like how things could slip. And if this is a memory of her when she was 7 and didn't realize she was talking to the future, you know?
Oh, gosh.
But it sounded like she was 7 in the walkie, the same age that she was when we were living together at my mom's place. So I texted my friend who said he was almost positive his walkie-talkie was turned off. I thought it could have been some sort of weird crosstalk with a kid on the same channel or something, but she responded to me in an annoyed tone herself and said, "I was just checking on you." Given the context of the story and the amount of pain that I was in, it was someone that I have been very close with, this gave me chills. But it's nice knowing that I have someone looking out for me besides my dad. Yeah, it's like her sister's past self in like some weird astral way.
It's like it's her niece though, right? Like so it's
still
alive.
Yes.
So
it's like the past version of her spirit. I don't know how it works.
Oh my gosh, I just saw a TikTok the other day about this woman. I think a lot of people tagged us in it. This woman's childhood home that she has not lived in like 15 years. And she was a kid when she grew up in it. Like her name was never on the house or anything. She continues to get calls about it whenever it's on the market, or people will call her asking if she wants to sell the house. And she's like, "I don't live there. I've never owned this house." And
I saw this too.
People will have to like post it somewhere because basically a man or a realtor, someone basically says like, "Well, your voice, I hear your voice in the house all the time." Like she haunts the house.
It was the current owner. Yes. And she was like, it's interesting because like maybe it's some weird residual like stain of my own energy. Like I lived there for a long time, but it's her voice that he hears as a ghost throughout the house. So maybe wild. It is. But it's like weird because it feels residual, but it sounds active, you know?
Right. Which makes me think that like she's still living there in a different timeline.
Yeah.
Ugh.
You can, I mean, again, haunting. We always go back to Haunting of Hill House because it was just like all of the different paranormal tropes.
Paranormal Bible.
It truly, it hit everything.
Yeah.
Okay. Also, I think it's worth mentioning that my niece has recently started down a spiritual path after I gave her a tarot reading a summer or two ago, and she accidentally leaves her body when she meditates. Shrug. So it could have really been some form of her actually checking in on me, even though she's in New Jersey and I'm in Colorado. She's experienced the paranormal all the time. So I'll get her to write down some stories and send them to you because my girl is sensitive. I'm also emailing you to tell you more tales and to clear up a past email. In the first email you read of mine, I put, "Do I really leave my body in my sleep?" And then I proceeded to not mention it at all in the email. From excitement, most likely. I've had many strange experiences, and writing into my favorite paranormal podcast gave me the chills in the best possible way.
Oh.
Firstly, the astral traveling that I didn't even know I was doing was until I met a beautiful and fabulous and amazing woman with a gift for communicating with the other worlds, channeling, and many other forms of healing, and being a straight up badass boss queen goddess.
Can we have her contact information, please?
I know. I wish we did. Let's call her Aphrodite because she exudes that energy to me. All the love, all the time. I met her at my spiritual sister's flea market, and Aphrodite's husband reached out to a friend who was trying to quit smoking at the time, which comes into play to prove that Aphrodite is legit as shit. Responding to a post that she had put on Facebook about the event. My friend got in contact with Aphrodite via phone for their first encounter ever. Let me repeat, they had never met. They're on the phone for a whole 2 minutes when Aphrodite starts coughing and says to my friend, "My chest is on fire. Are you trying to quit smoking by chance?" What the actual sage? I was helping out with the market, but I knew I had to talk to this woman. I approached her at a time that I felt wasn't bothersome, and she said hello to me, and then I completely broke down. Like, I ugly cried.
Oh.
Where this wave of uncontrollable emotion came from, I had no idea at the time. But in hindsight, I'm very good at bottling things up and wanting to deal with deep emotional wounds on my own, even knowing that I don't have to do so. It's been a learning process, and I'm getting much better at it than I was at this time, the summer of 2020. Just a little flex in hopes someone who's down right now needs to hear that it's not impossible to climb out of your hole. Anyway, I physically and spiritually felt this total stranger clear out my root chakra. I literally felt it as if she jump-started it or unblocked it, just enough for me to become aware of it in a way that I'd never before been.
Oh.
She proceeded to tell me that I have guilt that I'm holding on to that needs to be released, and we went on from there. She spoke with me for almost 2 hours with information from my spirit animals, one for every direction, and reassuring me that I'm on the right path by smiling a wide, beautiful smile and exclaiming, "Mama, you're a witch!"
Oh my gosh.
Love that.
Yeah.
I want someone to say that to us. "Mama, you're a witch."
Please.
Something I just embraced very recently before I met her. And she also told me that I visit my loved ones and those that I care for when I sleep, which is why I never remember my dreams. Something that I had not disclosed to her. The reason that I don't remember is because my feeble human brain cannot comprehend these journeys. Wow, Sabrina. So maybe you're even more powerful that you remember them. Maybe that's your superpower. That's your witchcraft.
It's so funny because like recently I've been like asking to talk to my loved ones a lot. And I've yet to remember. It's one of those things where like I desperately want to remember like if I am having conversations, it's amazing. But I think I need to know what we're talking about because I need some guidance, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. A little therapy from up above.
Yeah.
Everything has a price, especially with what is not tangible. She also told me that I have these massive wings that create these large gusts of wind that can be intimidating to other souls. So maybe that's why I've always gotten that I'm intimidating, even though I'm barely over 5 feet. And I spend my free time drawing mandalas and watching anime and witchcraft, but the white stuff, you know? Also, with these badass wings I have, maybe Sabrina and I can fly right into the mothership and see what's poppin' once and for all. Headline will read, 2 young baddies from New Jersey make contact with alien that saves the climate, ends the war in Ukraine. Dreamy sigh. If only.
I mean, I'm willing to try. Let's do it.
2 baddies from New Jersey. That's you.
Yeah.
Next is my first otherworldly experience ever. I was about 5, still living with both of my parents as a family before my parents had split, and my dad passed before I could explain to him what I meant when I said, I just see differently than other people, which is explained in this and many other emails that I have and I'm sure will send you. My dad usually left our house in the small town in Jersey to get to the city where he and my mom were both from. My dad grew up in the burbs in the 50s, and my mother's from the projects in the 70s of Newark, New Jersey. My dad was a beloved music teacher, and he made sure to show up for his students. This particular morning, I woke up around the same time that I always did as a small child, between 7 and 9. I left my room, and I went straight to my parents' room to wake my mom up and help with my breakfast, something I could do but preferred not to because I was 5 years old. She was sound asleep, and I looked up from her bed, through the doorway, into the other room, down the hall. There were 3 steps into the living room, and I could see the piano against the wall in the living room very clearly from the bed. And I was nervous to see someone sitting at it that was not my father. And my dad wasn't even in the house at the time. He was looking down at something in his hand, maybe mail. And there seemed to be a slender, shiny object on the bench next to him, maybe a letter opener. I'm not sure, but most shocking about this man, besides his entire existence, was the dapper way he was dressed. Black suit with a black hat, kind of like a short top hat or a bowler cap. Not a fedora. Very specifically shaped, more like a classic hat. But the 24 years since this has happened makes this a little bit fuzzy. Even more shocking than the attire was his skin. It was pink, not the flushy peach or even flushy pink of some skin tones, but it was like Pepto pink. Almost like the same color as the house that we were within, painted at my mother's request. Sorry, Dad. Wait a second. Wait, no, this is in New Jersey. I just started to think about the email that we had read on where someone was describing
episode 190. Yeah.
190, where the listener story at the end was describing the inside walls as Pepto pink. I was like, oh my God, is this the person who moved into that house?
Could you imagine?
Oh, that would have been freaky.
That would be like, whoa, small world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His skin also had a strange texture to it. It almost looked waxy, kind of like when they cover Kevin Bacon in the skin in the movie Hollow Man. And I did consider that I had seen the movie and somehow maybe made this up in my memory, in my head after watching the movie as a kid. But the movie came out years after this incident happened. I stared down at him, not looking away out of fear, shaking my mother gradually more violently as she continued to slumber. I don't know if I made a sound or if he felt me looking at him, but he slowly turned his head towards me. Panicking, I shook harder as fast as my little arms could go. And I looked down at my mom to see if I made even a little bit of progress. And when I whipped my head back up to look at him, he was gone. Vanished.
Oh.
No sound, no movement that I saw. Nothing. The cover to the keys of the piano were open, which was usually kept shut, and the bench pushed out like someone had just been sitting there, but no evidence of anyone actually being there. This encounter has stuck with me my entire life, and I've always been very curious of it. I know I had this encounter, and the next major event in my life was the passing of my father. How close the two actually were is unclear to me, although I hope to find out someday about the Hat Man at my father's piano. The first time I heard the coin Hat Man was on this very podcast, and it brought me some comfort knowing that there may be a possibility that I'm not the only one who may have been visited by this being. He also gives me kind of BEK vibes, like he was trying to look human but failed miserably. It's also worth noting.
Interesting.
Yeah. It's also worth noting that I don't remember his eyes. They were just black holes, or maybe he was wearing sunglasses. They were probably black holes, and my mind added the shades to make it less terrifying in any way that it can. But like, let's be real. Nice try, brain. That shit was still scary as fuck. And also, CeCe sent us so many emails. CeCe has so many experiences, but this is just the last one that I'm going to read right now because we could go on for like 30 more hours.
The CeCe episode.
The CeCe episode. Lastly, my little dude, the only man I truly need in my life. Sorry, babe. One of my soulmates and possibly vessel of a piece of my deceased father and familiar, the one and only Saxton Jazz, named after the instrument my father played and the state of Louisiana that he and his litter mates hailed to Colorado from. My old roommate was looking online for kittens because she thought I needed a pet, and how wrong she was. I needed my companion, Sax. She found a picture of him, and we drove to meet this little guy. I wasn't in the best shape. I had just moved to Colorado from Ohio, running from drug addiction and my past, trying to get it together, but not doing a great job of it. I was young, 23, and I know I looked younger than I was, but I had an edge about me that you could feel from a mile away because I was always on guard and made sure everyone knew it. The woman who worked there looked at me funny, probably smelling the whiskey, which is bad enough, but thinking I was a teenager probably made the mess that I seemed a little bit worse to them based on whatever experiences they had in their own lives. So I go in and I meet this tiny kitten and I pick him up and he just slings right to me like he was waiting for me. And the woman eventually found out how old I was and chilled out a little bit, seemed a little bit more relaxed around me, and they weren't sending the kitten off to this horrible environment. And we chatted more about the cat formerly known as Griffin. They told me that what his birthday was, and it was the same day as my father's death anniversary.
Oh.
When this came to light, the woman rejoiced and exclaimed, "That's your cat." He is the coolest guy I know. He loves belly rubs, doesn't eat my plants, can sit and shake, and most importantly, he knows when I'm sad and he never gets mad at me, and he loves to help me sage my apartment and do tarot readings for other forms of divination. He's very mellow like my dad, and I like to think that there's a piece of him in there, or this little lion was a gift from him to help heal my heart from his loss and to be by my side during the second most painful death I recently experienced, my only brother and my dad's only son. It's been a bumpy ride, but I feel like if I wake up being cuddled by a 15-pound mini Maine Coon, I'm going to be able to get through the rest of my day with healthy coping mechanisms and can come home to my sweet boy, 2 other fur babies, and a partner who has had my back no matter what. And my mom. Always my mom. Take care. Stay spooky. Stay spooky. CeCe.
Oh, CeCe. Oh, I don't even know where to start. This is so, gosh, I'm so glad you have your little Saxton, adorable pet cat
and a good support system.
Yeah.
Outside of just
great support system. And I'm sorry for all the losses you've experienced, but my gosh, it sounds like your family is present everywhere and constantly making sure you know that they are watching over you.
Well, and even, I mean, like, yeah, like to an extreme, to the point where like family members who are still alive somehow manipulate space and the astral plane and whatnot to like still be there for CeCe when CeCe needs it. And like finding the person, the Aphrodite at the fair and just
unreal.
Just surrounded by people who seem so in tune and so good at doing exactly what's needed of them for CeCe at the time.
Yeah.
It's really magical.
So magical. And it sounds like, well, CeCe is a witch, which is so cool.
Totally.
And it sounds like CeCe's
Mama, you're a witch.
Mama, you're a witch. Hell yeah. So cool. I want to know more about your abilities and your powers and your dreaming of your loved ones and your relatives while you're sleeping. And I just think it's so cool that in this podcast, we have been able to communicate with people who are in all different places with their like journeys of spirituality and like discovering their talents and their abilities, and whether they're in the beginning and they're like, you know what, I'm opening myself up and I know I have these abilities and I'm going to learn more about them, or they're freaking pros and they're astral traveling all the time and leaving their bodies or talking to their family all the time. I just think it's so cool.
There's a lot of people for us to learn from here.
Yeah.
And we all are together.
Okay. My next story is from our listener, Lindsey, whose story we originally read in Encounters 126. And it was all about the haunted fire station that Lindsey works at and how there was like a moaning myrtle type of haunting or ghost in the bathroom, how there's all these knocks, and that a lot of people at the station played with a Ouija board.
Oh,
and
this is the one where Lindsey was like,
yes.
I'm not playing, right?
Yes.
Lindsey was like, I'm not participating in this.
Yes.
Okay, I remember this.
Yes. So Lindsey followed up to answer some of your questions. Isaac is totally like Moaning Myrtle. He seems to really like the bathrooms here. Some firefighters said that our station was built on some type of burial or Native American land, and they suspect Isaac may be connected to that. I did just learn that some people have seen a man in bloody Civil War attire walking around and disappearing into the walls.
Oh my God.
Some of the calls that we deal with are also medical, and some are domestic violence, with the results being terrible. We believe that those victims' spirits will sometimes follow us back to the station, perhaps because they feel safe. There was one time after a really bad car accident that I had a child's spirit attach itself to me. After several slightly scary encounters, I said a prayer for their well-being and had to politely tell them to go to the light. Every once in a while, I can feel that spirit hang around with me while I'm at the station. It doesn't scare me anymore. I just say hello, I say a prayer, and the playful spirit goes away. Firefighters have played with Ouija boards here before, so I imagine that the demonic entity is a result of that. My coworkers either don't believe in it or don't know the proper way of ending a Ouija board session, and so listening to your podcast has helped me try to explain it to them. Halloween was wild. We went out to pass candy to the trick-or-treaters, and when we returned to the station, all of the lights in the station and doors to our bedrooms were closed. We left when the sun was still up, so there were no lights turned on, and we usually leave all of our doors open. Throughout the night, doors would slam, shut, and rattle. One of the firefighters said he heard a little girl's giggle, and others, including myself, saw shadow figures. Needless to say, I slept with my lights on and watched Disney movies to help me fall asleep. No shame in my game. We all admitted to sleeping with our lights on that night, lol. Thank you again for reading my stories. I will write again with my alien stories and hauntings from my childhood.
Yes.
Hope you gals have this is back with Thanksgiving. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving. Take care. Lindsey.
Okay, that was Thanksgiving, and now it's almost a year later. Lindsey
so
says
more updates.
I mean, incredible. I'm glad that we get more information on Isaac. I'm glad that, I'm not glad that like the Ouija board and things are continuing, but it's so fun for us that we get updates from the firehouse and from the people that are experiencing all the paranormal.
Yeah, it's the best. And it's the best, but it's also, I feel bad for Lindsey because Lindsey's working with people who are very clearly playing with Ouija boards in a way that maybe you should not be playing with Ouija boards. So.
Right. Well, and that's the hard thing for Lindsey, right? Because Lindsey can say like, oh, I'm not participating in this, but it doesn't mean that then you're protected as someone who says no from everything else that's just floating through the space that everyone else brought in.
Yeah, and Lindsey makes a good point. Like they do deal with some pretty devastating situations, and so it's no wonder that spirits follow them back to the station or continue to haunt because they're confused or scared.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sad.
What do you have?
Okay, so from Encounters 122, we received an email that said, my mom's demon doppelganger / my dad found me, from Shelby-Rae.
What?
And so we read that email from Shelby-Rae, and Shelby had written us both a scary story and a heartwarming one, but the scary one involved following her mom around the house and her mom not answering her until she finally finds her actual mom and realizes she'd been following like a doppelganger through the house.
So scary.
Which really scared her actual mom because her mom was like, oh God, like stuff happened to me when I was a teenager and this is making me scared that like things are happening again. And we got no information as to what those things were. So
this is a prequel. Is this a prequel
This
follow-up?
is a prequel.
Oh, hell yeah.
Not a sequel, a prequel.
Okay.
Alrighty. This is the bad experience my mom had with a Ouija board. She was in her late teens at the time, and she was spending time at her grandparents' house with all of her cousins. This was right around the time one of her friends had been in a car accident and had passed away. So she and her cousins got a Ouija board and tried to communicate with her past friend. She asked the board if her friend was present and if she could speak with her. Some time passed before the planchette started moving, but when it did, it spelled out, ha, 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 ha. The room felt heavy, and they all freaked out. So my mom grabbed the board and put it back in the box without saying goodbye.
Oh, no.
She then thought the best way to dispose of it would be to burn it. LOL.
No.
Yeah. So that's what they did.
No.
Ooh, they watched it burn. But a few weeks later, when she went into the closet that the board used to be stored in to get something, there was the board sitting on the shelf.
I'm not okay.
She freaked out and she went to tell her brother about it because he saw the board burn originally too. And when they went back to the closet to check on it, it was gone. She said she never saw it again after that, but that's when she began being stalked by whatever entity followed her for over 20 years now. She even felt it tried to enter her body one time, like a possible possession, but it wasn't successful. That was one email.
What the heck?
Then we get another email from Shelby-Rae. More backstory on her mom. My mom's bad experience happened when she was 18, a few years before she married my dad. My dad worked out of town a lot because he was in construction, and she spent a lot of time alone in our house and would hear strange footsteps down the hall or whispers randomly. One night, she was dozing off when she felt a kiss on her cheek. She thought it was my dad surprising her by coming home early, and she rolled over in excitement. But it was not my dad. In fact, nothing was there. She said she felt so scared that she actually left the house with my brother in tow. I wasn't born yet, LOL. And spent the night with my grandma, her mom. So literally my whole life, something has been following my mom and messing with the rest of us. She told me the worst night terrors that she's ever had was when my dad was out of town. That seemed to be when the most activity happened. I would sleep with her because I think we both felt better just to not be alone. And she told me about one of her dreams where the entity that preys on her made her think that it had me and my brother. It told her that she had to choose what was most important to her. She could either choose us or choose her cats.
What?
But to get to us, trigger warning, she had to kill and eat all of her cats.
What the heck is this entity?
It's so dark. It's so dark. It's truly,
and
like,
the fact that there were other people playing with the Ouija board that first night. So it's like, why her?
Why her? I mean, for all we know, maybe it did splinter off and attach itself equally to everybody. Kind of like the final destination of demonic Ouija board experiences.
Nope, don't like that.
I know she must have felt so helpless because she loves her cats and she loves us so much. However, right before she was going to have to follow through, she woke up. Whatever this thing was that follows her, it knows exactly how to hurt her. I actually think the reason she had so many animals was to protect herself in some way. We also have a black lab named Sable that refused to enter the house after something had cornered her upstairs. Once she got out of that house, she never went back in willingly. She slept on our enclosed porch for the rest of her life, but sadly she was hit by a car there one night. Anyway, I feel like I could write a book on all of her experiences alone. We also had a seemingly benign house ghost that I named Sally and blamed a lot of strange occurrences on. Luckily, in recent years, we haven't experienced much because we don't give whatever it is any attention or anything to feed off of.
Side note, that reminds me. So my friend Jill, who has 2 daughters, Jill and Steve, their 4-year-old has this imaginary friend, Curly. And Curly does a lot of bad things. It's like I took Abby to go wash her hands in the bathroom, and she goes, "Curly's licking the toilet seat. Curly's being bad," and like tell him to stop licking the toilet seat. But
is
basically,
Curly a dog?
No, what they think it is that like she has these thoughts of like things that she knows she shouldn't do. So she has Curly do them.
Oh, interesting. She's projecting all of her intrusive thoughts onto an imaginary friend.
Yeah.
You know what? That's kind of smart. Maybe I'll start doing that with mine. I'm going to borrow Curly for a minute.
Take Curly for a ride.
That's so funny. Like, don't lick the toilet seat. It's like,
yeah.
But what if I did? What would happen?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cute.
It's cute.
I hope that's what it is. It's not something worse.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. To end it off in a little bit more of a lighter note. Shelby-Rae says, I like to think my dad is protecting us to some extent now. Since he's passed, I've felt the sense of security that I didn't quite feel before. I'm not afraid of death and the afterlife nearly as much now, as morbid as that may sound. So I know you guys were wondering about who met my grandma on the other side when I said that I thought that she was the one that had met my dad when he passed from a previous email. Well, in 2011, my uncle passed too soon due to health complications, and this was one of my dad's older brothers. My dad was the baby of 5 boys. My uncle and dad were close all through life, always finding trouble to get into. So my mom's theory was that since my dad was dying, God said, oh no, we need their mom here because they're going to be a handful. I hope that answered some of your questions about my stories. I will be sure to write in a few more of my experiences for now. Channels Sabrina's whisper. See you on the other side. Oh. And then Shelby-Rae goes, P.S. My coworkers are blaming me for the weird things that are happening around our warehouse because I've been binging TGOG. Oopsies.
What's happening?
I know.
Shelby?
Another follow-up email.
Wow. Okay. There's so much to unpack here because Shelby's mom has so many encounters.
Mm-hmm.
And I am curious because this was like the prequel, right? So I'm curious what the sequel is because Shelby's mom in the first story was concerned that this was like a sign that things were happening again. So has anything picked up again?
Right. Yeah. How much more? I mean, it sounds like Shelby thinks that her dad is protecting them in some way. Yeah. But yeah, I am curious, like what more has happened? Like what happened after that doppelganger experience? You know, did anything else happen? Yeah. Did you see that doppelganger again? Did your mom go through any measures to protect herself in the house?
Right.
Did the Ouija board ever resurface once more?
And like, what's the last experience that Shelby's mom has had with this entity, you know? Also, right. I'm curious to know what Shelby's dad, because I totally believe Shelby's dad is now protecting the family. And I imagine Shelby's dad like standing up, like doing a stand down with the demon or whatever this entity is. Mm-hmm. And I'm just curious what he learned about it. I want to know.
Yeah.
It's like, it's a stuff that like I shouldn't want to know, but I'm just so curious. Like what is this entity? What did it want? Why does it do this? Who hurt you?
Well, and it's just so aggressive. Like what it's picking out to project into, like the night terrors are disturbing.
So disturbing.
Also, I feel like there's something weird going on where I don't know if we're just picking these emails out or if we're getting them more frequently. But I feel like in recent past, we've had a few emails that are similar where it's like the darkness that is, there's just such disturbing images being put into people's minds by these entities.
Yeah. I think it's a fear tactic.
Yeah.
It's manipulative. It's fear inducing. It's just all around messed up.
Well, happy but you know Encounters 150.
Yeah.
Everyone.
But it's messed up, but there's also the happy ones like we read with Elise's story where like her nanny and grandma are watching over her and making us cry. You know, there's beautiful things that also happen in the paranormal world. We just love hearing more from all of you. So to the 1,000+ that we have read on the podcast and emailed and said, hey, tell us more. Tell us more. And to the 7,000 of you and then the however many others of you listening, continue to send us your stories. We will continue to read them and we want to hear
updates
everything
along the way.
Yes. Tell us.
Well, we love you.
You can support us on Patreon. You can join our pyramid scheme. You can rate and review us on iTunes. Follow us on social media. And buy our merch.
Pyramid stickers. Get everyone to join the TGOG Triangle.
Join the Triangle. Thank you to our editors at Fire Digital, Aiden Manning, Eric Foster, Max Lodian. Thank you for editing our show. And thank you all of you for listening and watching on YouTube.
And we will see you on the other side.